Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Norway once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. These guys do some very nice beers. I've had really nice beers from these guys over the years. They're probably one of the better known Norwegian breweries these days as well actually, and this is another example of one of their signature styles, but it's actually quite quirky within that style bracket actually, and that does make me very curious. So for this review then, we are going to head to Oslo, the capital city in the southeast of Norway, and we're having a look at another beer from Amundsen Bryggeri. So this particular beer is called the Christmas Morning. It comes in at 4.7% ABV, and this one apparently is a pastry stout, although Amundsen are describing this as a breakfast waffle stout. So yeah, I have to say, very curious about this one. This must be the fourth or so pastry stout that I've had from these guys within the last maybe year or so. The first one I think that I had was the Zygote, which was released around the same time last year. That was a chocolate chip cookie stout if I remember rightly. Then we had the Glazed and Confused, which was a big Imperial stout, and then most recently we had the Viking Brunchfest Club, which is potentially one of the best stouts I've ever reviewed on the channel. That thing was a big 14% monster, and it came in a 440ml can, which was just absolutely crazy, I have to say. But yeah, these guys are very good, both at the big pastry stouts that I've mentioned, and also when it comes to New England IPAs actually. Space Tiger is one that always kind of comes to mind actually. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. A 4.7% pastry stout, so quite a bit lower in alcohol than some of the other examples of this style that you're going to find from Amundsen. But we got this beer here in Sweden as part of the Lokal Småskaligt assortment for December of 2020. The exact release date was the 1st of December if I remember rightly. But yeah, fingers crossed it's another good beer. I always enjoy trying different things from Amundsen and from other breweries in Norway. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. And I do need to make sure I review some more Norwegian beers in the new year, and fingers crossed we can get some new Norwegian breweries on the channel as well. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Amundsen Bryggeri before, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Norwegian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly, although not as regularly as I would like. Fingers crossed we can fix that a little bit in the new year, but you know, there's some great Norwegian beers out there. I just need to get a hold of them and review them for you here. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Amundsen Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So, Amundsen Bryggeri, as I've told you already, are based in Oslo, the capital city in the southeast of Norway, and the brewery is part of the Akerhus Group, which owns a number of bars and restaurants around the city. The main men in this company are Ole Johan Tollefsen, Bore Jensen and Tom Erik Andreasen. So the first brewery that they had was part of a gastropub in Stortingsgatan, and this was just a very small operation. The key man in getting this established was Tom Alfred Oimo. He'd been a home brewer for a number of years, and you know, he, I guess you could say, maybe is one of the kind of pioneers of the Norwegian craft brewing scene. But you can actually go to the Amundsen Bryggeri, as it's called, which is right next to the old townhouse in Oslo, very close to the water actually. I did go there once, and I kind of regret not filming an out and about video for you, but that was before I started the whole idea. So the next time I go to Oslo, I will make sure that I film one of those for you at the Amundsen Bryggeri actually. But the brewery continued to expand since the foundation of that original brewery in Stortingsgatan, and by 2015 they were producing around 200,000 litres of beer per year, and they had become quite well established in Norway. They'd opened up a kind of larger production facility in the Nydalen area of Oslo, but in 2016 The parent company of Amundsen Bryggeri purchased the property company Hauketo Eiendom, and with this they acquired the Bjørnørdevegen 14 property, Bjørnørdevegen 14 if you want to translate that into English. They got a hold of this property in the Hauketo area in the south of Oslo, and this facility was then turned into a 3,500 square metre brewery, and they began brewing there in late 2016, and the new brewery capacity started off at 1 million litres of beer per year, which is pretty damn impressive, I have to say. But the brewery equipment in there came from Braucon in Germany, the canning and bottling lines were bought in from Italy, and the total investment in this site was apparently 16 million Norwegian kroner. But the managing director of the brewery is Jeffrey Jansen van Vuren, and then Matthew Thomas and John Hudson are the others that are involved in the day-to-day running of the brewery itself. But yeah, they've continued to expand over the years. I think that capacity that I mentioned to you already has expanded a little bit more, but this brewery, of course, as I say, are very well known for the New England IPAs and the kind of big beastly Imperial Stouts, and they've just been continuing to expand those ranges over the last couple of years. The artwork on the cans is also very distinctive. This is designed by the American Peter John de Villiers, and then in 2019 these guys produced a total of 9,500 hectolitres of beer per year, which is about 950,000 litres, and as of December 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 120 different kinds of beer. But yeah, that's all the information I can really tell you about Amundsen Bryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. As you can see this one is called The Christmas Morning. You can see the artwork is Santa related, or Jultomten, as we would call them here in Sweden. I'm not sure if the Norwegians have a kind of similar name for him, although I guess it probably is. But yeah, I do like the artwork on this one, especially the kind of shiny moustache, but you can see the sleigh, and I'm not sure if that is meant to be like Superman in the other lens of the glasses there, but yeah, the artwork on this one is pretty cool. There you can see what I think is a griffin. I've never quite figured that out, whether the Amundsen Bryggeri symbol is a griffin, but yeah, I have to say I do like the Amundsen symbol there. But yeah, they've changed this, of course. This used to say Amundsen Bryggeri. These days, because they're an international brewery, it does have the English on it. But yeah, Christmas Morning Breakfast Waffle Stout, this one, 4.7% ABV. This is a 330ml can, and I think, again, I paid about 30 Swedish kronas for this, so about €3, you know, £2.50, maybe $3.50 American if you like. So yeah, just to give you the kind of price comparisons. 330ml can, this one, 440ml. I think this could be quite interesting actually. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, let's go for it. Yeah, this I think. Oh, look at that. A little bit of an aggressive pour on this one, but I think that suits it quite well actually. So yeah, as you can see with this one, this is poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour, which is exactly what you would expect from an Imperial Stout, to be honest with you. If you shine the light through this one, it does actually have a nice little bit of a kind of ruby tint to it, and in fairness you would expect that of a lower alcohol stout. It looks pretty much, you know, in terms of its colour, I would describe this as a dark ebony rosewood, but you know, as I say, when you put the light through it, it's got a lovely kind of ruby tint to it, and you would expect that of a lower alcohol stout, as I said. But this beer poured with a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say very light beige head on this one. That's going to fade away and be a very, very thin foamy layer, and it's, I think, going to leave a nice kind of foamy ring just around the edge of the glass there. But I can see already that the foam there is just fading away very nicely. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but I mean overall it does look pretty damn nice actually. I like that goes together. But yeah, surprised I have to say at how dark this beer is for a 4.7%er. Remember, the colour of your beers are dependent on 1, the type of malts that you use, and 2, the length of boil. I would guess that when this one is a 4.7%er, probably most of the colour on this one is down to the the type of malts rather than the boil. I wouldn't think you would give a 4.7% stout such a long boil, to be honest with you, but some Imperial stouts can have, you know, 5, 6, even 7 and 8 hour boils on them. But yeah, this one I think is very nice. Lovely ruby tint to it, kind of Coca-Cola coloured edge if you shine the light through it. But overall, it does look pretty nice. And I will say that even when you're just moving this beer around in front of you, you get some lovely kind of slightly sharp, almost jammy, red fruity characters coming out of this beer. So yeah, the aroma profile of this one I think is going to be very, very interesting. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on. Oh yeah, this beer is pretty ridiculous in terms of its aroma once again, but you know, knowing Amundsen and how well these guys can do these big pastry stouts, not surprised. So yeah, the first thing that's going to strike you about this one is the kind of fruitiness that comes out of it. It does have a little bit of a sharp red fruity character to it, and that's very, very interesting, like I say. But the main backbone of this beer, you can smell that this beer definitely has a bit of a lactosey backbone to it. That kind of dominates your nose almost. You can smell a good little bit of a kind of milk chocolatey quality to the beer, you know, a sort of 30% cocoa chocolate. Would I say, I want to say that there's a little bit of an almost like cookie dough type thing going on in this one. It's got a little bit of that kind of, I guess pancake batter would be another obvious descriptor for this one, but yeah, it's got a little bit of that almost kind of cookie dough type quality to it in the middle of the nose there as well. It actually smells very similar to what I remember from the Zygote, actually. So yeah, most definitely a pastry stout, and I will say straight away that the aroma that you're getting out of this one for a 4.7%er is pretty damn impressive. So yeah, big kind of lactosey backbone to this one. You can smell the thickness of the oats in there, a sort of 30% cocoa chocolate, I would say, quite a more milky chocolate. There is a wee bit of an almost vanilla quality coming out of this one, but you've also got some interesting brown sugary notes in there. Quite a bright caramel for me. As I say, there is a little bit of that almost cookie dough type quality coming out of this one. So yeah, I really like how that part of the beer goes together, to be honest with you. It does smell more like kind of cookie dough, I think, than waffles, to be honest with you, but that's probably a point of debate. There's definitely a little bit of vanilla to this one, and I guess the thing that maybe makes it a little bit more like you know, pancakes or waffles or whatever, the breakfast waffle stout, it's probably the kind of fruity edge to the beer. So yeah, I've been referring to pancake batter, but I guess yeah, probably waffle batter is another thing that you can refer to with this one. So yeah, I do like how that goes together in this beer for sure. So yeah, the malty side of this one is quite interesting. It's what you'd expect though, a big kind of thick, almost slick lactosey based thing, and that is exactly what you would expect from an Imperial, not from an Imperial, from a pastry stout of any description. But the level of aroma that you get out of this one, the sheer kind of intensity of it for a 4.7%er is pretty damn impressive actually. I mean, there's not much difference between this and some of the big, you know, sort of 14% kind of things that I've had from Amundsen previously. So yeah, that is impressive, and we'll give them a thumbs up for that. But on the hoppy side of things, there's a little bit of light earthiness to this beer for sure. You can smell, there's a teeny little bit of floral aromaticity, not a lot though, and a wee bit of grassiness, but there's a hell of a lot of fruity character to this one. So it does have a nice little bit of a sharp kind of raisiny note to it. There's something about this beer that makes me want to say cranberries. It's just got a little bit of that kind of cranberry syrup sort of thing actually that comes out of the beer. But definitely some more oily blackcurrant and blackberry, brighter blackberry notes out of this beer. Some juicy figs in there, definitely a bit of a kind of plummy quality and sharper raisins like I said. But yeah, there is just something that makes me want to say a kind of cranberry jam sort of thing to this one. But yeah, aroma wise it's quite nice. There are one or two little woody and nutty elements sitting underneath it, but yeah, the overall vibe of this beer is very, very similar to some of the bigger Imperial pastry stouts that you're going to get from Amundsen, and that is impressive for a 4.7%er, as I've repeated a few times now. But yeah, definitely take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it, but we are going to taste this one now. So this one is the Christmas Morning 4.7% pastry stout from Amundsen Bryggeri in Oslo in Norway. Let's get stuck into this. Very, very curious, I have to say. So yeah, Slange, skål, cheers, and you know, an early Merry Christmas. Skål. All right, okay. Yeah. So the first thing you're going to notice about this beer is the mouthfeel. The mouthfeel of this one is really, you know, very, very light. This beer packs a hell of an aroma, as I said, but the mouthfeel of this one is really, really very light, and this is quite a sort of sessionable thing. I mean, the mouthfeel that you get out of this straight away is almost like, it's almost more like a kind of traditional English stout or something like that. So yeah, that's the first thing you're going to notice about this one. And it definitely becomes a bit more kind of roasty and toasty the further you go into the aftertaste as well. So that's really interesting. But I mean, when it's a breakfast stout, usually breakfast stouts have elements of coffee and things like that in them. So that is to be expected as well. The ingredients list you have on this one, it says oats, malted barley, oats, lactose, aroma, hops and yeast. So yeah, there's not really a coffee element to this one, but I think it's fair to say that one of the malty components of this beer has to be black malt. This beer does develop a little bit of a dryness to it the further you go into the aftertaste too. But yeah, I like this one. I do like this one for sure. Yeah, definitely different though. Definitely a different one from Amundsen for sure. So yeah, where to start with this beer then? I mean, straight away with this one, you can feel that kind of lactosey backbone of the beer just blanket in the middle of your tongue. It gives the beer a very, very smooth, kind of almost bready vibe to it, which I think is very, very interesting. Underneath though, particularly when you go towards the back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a roasty, toasty, black malty quality out of this one, which I really quite like actually. Yeah, that's an interesting point to make about this one as well actually, is that the kind of roasty, toasty, black malt quality. Yeah. The thing is as well, that roasty, toasty, black malt that it has in the back third of your palate, as I say, there is a wee bit of it that creeps forward, but yeah, the back third of your palate has a kind of roasty, toasty, black malty base to it, but the lactose really kind of sits on top of it and just smoothens the whole thing out. And then gradually, as you move further forward on the palate, the black maltiness just kind of disappears in favour of the lactose and the oats almost just give you a little bit of sweetness out of the beer actually. So yeah, it's those oaty flavours that really come out as you move into the middle of your palate and then towards the kind of front third of your tongue, if you like. So you'll feel the oats gradually coming out more and more on that front part of your palate. So that's a really interesting point to make about this one, definitely. But yeah, I do like how this one goes together, definitely. Yeah, malty side to this beer is very, very nice. So yeah, it's just very quirky compared to the other ones we've had from Amundsen in the past. So yeah, back third of your palate, I think you can definitely feel a little bit of wheaty smoothness there sitting on top of that roasty black malty quality. So that the back third of your palate does feel a little bit thicker and it smoothens out as you come further forward. But as you move into the kind of middle third of your palate, it just drops away a little bit. The thickness of the beer just drops down. Then you've got the kind of lactosey base to the beer, a bit of a thicker oaty note on top of it, and then, pardon me, maybe just a little bit of a kind of waffle, pancakey type batter sitting on top of that. Actually, it does have a kind of similar vibe to it as the kind of cookie dough type thing that you'll get out of the Zygote beer that these guys do, but it's definitely just how do you say, just not quite as punchy and thick and pronounced, if you like, actually. This really is more, in a lot of the ways, a lot of the vibe that you get from this beer, to be honest, is more along the lines of a kind of traditional English stout, if you like a kind of one of these kind of pump cask ones. Yeah, this is really interesting beer, and I have to say, I do like this. It's an interesting concept to do a lower alcohol pastry stout, actually, and it's worked. I have to say, it has worked quite well, to be honest. So yeah, more power to Amundsen for this. This is a nice idea. So yeah, when you have the liquid on your tongue, you do really get a lot of the kind of sweetness out of the beer in the beginning, and that gradually fades away. It does have a wee bit, as I say, it's that kind of nice, smooth cookie dough type thing. It's got a little bit of a kind of Werther's Originally type quality to it, like I said. But yeah, I like how, I certainly do like how that all goes together in this one. If you go to the centre of your palate, then move further forward, you do get a little bit of a nutty quality there, just as you reach the border with the front third of your palate. If you go to the front corners of your tongue and then just go kind of diagonally back a bit, you get a more kind of woody vibe out of the beer. There are one or two little woody undertones to this one. So the malty side of this beer, for a 4.7%er, it has a remarkable complexity to it, and it is pretty interesting, but there are a few vibes from the Zygo Imperial Stout there, but it's the big kind of thick oatiness, I guess. That's what I would surmise about this beer is missing compared to the the big high alcohol ones that you can get from Amundsen. I would surmise that it's just the level of oatiness, to be honest with you. But yeah, I like how how this goes together for sure. This is a really interesting concept, and maybe a few other breweries will follow suit with this one. So yeah, thumbs up to Amundsen for this. If I remember rightly, I think the Zygo isn't even so high in alcohol pastry stout. That's more like a kind of 8%er, if I'm remembering rightly too. So maybe there is a bit of a market for that for sure, because you can't be drinking 440 mils of some of these big pastry stouts every day of the week. No way. But yeah, maybe this is a concept that could be taken forward in another way. But anyway, on to the hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, there's a nice little bit of smooth earthiness to the beer. As you move further forward, it's a little bit kind of herbal almost, and as you reach the front kind of corners of the palate, it's a nice, it's got a little bit more of a kind of floral aromaticity to it as well, but the floral aromaticity is fairly minimal. It's mainly a kind of smoothness that you get out of this beer. But yeah, round the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is a little bit lighter and more sort of grassy, if you like, yeah, there is just a little bit of that there, but I think the herbal and sort of earthy qualities do spread quite far forward on this one. Just a little touch of floral aromaticity, as I said, and then a wee bit of a lighter kind of grassiness in there. It's a bit difficult to say exactly what hop they would have used in this one, but yeah, I think it works. Again, it works quite well. The slightly earthy qualities that you have with this beer works well with the more kind of roasty toasty backbone that the beer has, because normally in the higher alcohol ones, of course, that would be kind of almost flattened by the kind of oaty content. But yeah, interesting stuff for sure. In terms of the fruity side of this beer then, let's have a look at that. So yeah, on that front third of your palate, as I always say, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. When you take this one in, you do get a little bit of a kind of raisiny sharpness to this one, and when you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you do get that nice, you do get a little bit of a nice kind of oily plum to it, but that's quite minimal, and you can feel a little bit of the more kind of roasty toasty element of the beer just pushing forward underneath that fruity part of the palate. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind there. The fruity side of this beer almost comes across as a little bit dry and things. So yeah, but yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, definitely a wee bit of a kind of plummy note, but that fades away very, very quickly. You get a bit of a lighter kind of figgy quality in there, and as you reach the kind of front third of that front third of your tongue, the front ninth of your tongue almost, I guess, if you want to be pernickety about the fractions, you do get a bit of a juicy kind of black curranty quality sitting there. Then the further you go into the aftertaste, you'll get a slightly more oily blackberry quality out of this one. So yeah, that's an interesting point about this beer as well, for sure. So yeah, definitely an interesting point to make about this one. The fruity side of this beer is very soft. Not quite as oily as the big pastry stouts that you would normally get, but it does have a nice juiciness to it, actually, too. So yeah, nice big wetness, nice big juiciness, and that gets a thumbs up from me. Definitely. So yeah, take a little bit of time and just kind of ponder that over. I think the fruitiness in this beer is definitely worth considering. So yeah, figgy notes, blackcurrant, blackberries, a little bit of plum. It almost smells a little bit jammy in the aroma, but it's definitely quite a bit more of a softer kind of fruity character that you get out of this one. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would describe this beer as being kind of top end of mid-body. The level of mouthfeel you get out of this beer is impressive for the alcohol content. Like I said though, compared to the big Imperial pastry stouts that you're going to come across, it's definitely, you know, nowhere near as kind of big and thick and creamy and stuff like that. This does have the mouthfeel of a more kind of traditional English stout almost. But nice smoothness to it, nice little bit of carbonation. And I'd say overall there's a touch of oiliness to this one, but it is slightly more smooth and almost slightly creamy, to be honest with you. In terms of hoppy bitterness and things, what are we going to say about this one? In terms of hoppy bitterness and things, there's not a lot of bitterness to this one. I'd say maybe, again, about 25-ish IBUs. Earthy hops and the kind of roasty, toasty black malts in this one are giving you that. And I think, again, it's just the oats. I think it's the oats that have really been scaled back to give this beer its alcohol content. So that makes the roasty, toasty part of the beer just appear a little bit more. And you're not going to notice it so much in beers that have such a high oat content to them. So I think that's what's really kind of distinguishing this beer almost, if you can say that. So yeah, a little bit of bitterness from this one from the black malts and the earthy hops, but I would say maybe 25-30 IBUs. It's not madly bitter, this beer, in my opinion. Good little bit of sweetness and smoothness from the malt base though, and a good bit of juiciness from the fruity characters, but overall it's quite a wet. It does feel like quite wet, but at the same time it's got a little bit of kind of creaminess and slickness to it too. So to be honest with you, this is just a very, very quirky beer in my opinion, a 4.7% pastry stout. Again, it's not something you're going to come across all that often, so you know, on that basis alone, I would say that this is worth trying. It's an idea that's been really well executed from Amundsen, and when you know this brewery, it's not surprising that they've done pretty well with this one. So yeah, I guess if you're looking for, you know, just something nice to kind of sip on that's not going to blow the head off you, if you like, this would be a solid choice. If you want something a bit more, you've got Zygote, and then beyond that you've got these, you know, other kind of more crazy beers that they do. But yeah, this gets a thumbs up from me. I like the idea behind this, and I like what they were going for, a low alcohol pastry stout. I'd be curious to see what some of the other breweries that are doing these things would do if they took this concept forward. But yeah, in terms of the fruitiness, then I guess we could say this beer would be, what would we say about this? This one, it's quite smooth and quite juicy. It's got a slickness to it, as I mentioned. I think, yeah, it's a very smooth, just juicy slickness that you get out of this one. I think overall this beer probably kind of mid-bodied, straight in the middle, smooth carbonation, a little bit of creaminess to it, which is what you expect from a pastry stout, of course. Maybe about, I would say this one, it has to be about 30, maybe even 40 IBUs at a push, because I think the bitterness of the beer gives it a little bit more IBU, to be honest with you, as well as the earthiness. A little bit of sweetness in the malt base, like I said, but I think the bitterness really pushes that out a little bit. And then you've got some nice, just juicy, but quite slick, fruity characters out of this one. But yeah, it's a really interesting beer, this one, and even for the novelty factor alone, I think this is worth trying. But yeah, nice to try something a little bit different from Amundsen, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on this beer as well. So yeah, the Christmas morning waffle breakfast stout, as they're calling it, 4.7% ABV pastry stout from Amundsen. Really solid beer, this one. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this. An interesting one, another great beer from Amundsen, and I've enjoyed reviewing this for you here on the channel. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Amundsen as well. We will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the future. I'll just need to keep an eye on what beers they're releasing. But yeah, always enjoy reviewing stuff from these guys. Let me know some other Norwegian breweries that I should take a look at as well, and fingers crossed we can feature those on the channel at some point next year. But yeah, very Merry Christmas to you guys. I thought this was another interesting beer from Amundsen, and as I say, they are one of the better known Norwegian breweries and one that you really should check out. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers. The Christmas morning, 4.7% pastry stout if you like. I guess breakfast waffle stout as Amundsen are calling it, but this one comes to you from Amundsen Bryggeri in Oslo in Norway. Catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers.